Why does it always seem like the Democrats find a way to have just under the amount of votes they need to get a bill passed that they say they want? For example, Obama had 60 votes, a 60 vote majority in the Senate for 4 months, and 58 for the entire, at least 58 for the entire 2 years. So why wasn't he able to get anything passed?
Isn't that always weird? It's always just not enough. You always have so much, just enough Republican obstruction just so you can't do anything of any progress. You can't pass any progressive legislation at all. I think that the Democrats try the hardest they can, and Republicans are just bad obstructionists. No, clearly they don't want it. Clearly the establishment, neoliberal Democrats, they just don't want those policies, and they need an excuse. They need a big bad wolf to basically, to scapegoat for their, I wouldn't even say incompetence. I'd just say corruption. I'd say they don't want, there's the same reason why Obama with a supermajority could have gotten Medicare for all, at least. And like I said, there's problems with the public option, but at least, if you're going to go for the worst legislation of the Affordable Care Act, the public option is better than that is, still better than that is. So you don't even go for Medicare. You don't go for Medicare for all. You don't even go for the public option. Instead, you do a right-wing healthcare bill that's blueprinted by Richard Nixon, came to be what it is today through Republican think tanks, and even implemented by Republicans such as Mitt Romney, the famous 1%er guy. They don't want the progressive policies. If they did, we would have them. FDR showed alone against the entire establishment that you can get. If FDR hadn't died, we'd have an entire second Bill of Rights that would have provided healthcare, housing, jobs, all of these things. And if he didn't die, he would have got that. He was able to accomplish the things he did even before that because he fought for them. He wanted them. And when the rich came after him and they said, "Hey, the rich hates you," he said, "Let them hate me. Let them come for me." He welcomed the fight.
Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
But he wanted those things. Obama didn't want any good health care. He wanted to pass something that he thought, and look, it's funny because the Republicans oppose the Democrats no matter what they do. It doesn't matter if it's the exact same policies the Republicans are fighting for or if it's an actual progressive policy. The second you adopt a Republican policy, all of a sudden the Republicans run to the right so that they can look to their left and be like, that's disgusting. Look at this guy, socialism over here. So why not just pass the socialism? You'll win on the fight. You have the majority of the American people on your side since those policies are overwhelmingly popular with the majority of the American people. You would win on those fights. You'd win the American people. You would win the fight. And with that, you could actually win the fights because you have the institutional advantages in that level of power as the president to actually get those things done. Biden could implement Medicare for all to fucking morrow with an executive order. You have emergency executive orders for healthcare. It's been applied to other, I think a place in Texas it was done.
And the White House issuing a federal emergency declaration for the entire state of Texas. Governor Greg Abbott submitted the request over the weekend. This means FEMA can come in and provide shelter, food, and Medicare for all 254 counties.
It was done, I think, in the Midwest somewhere. There's been places where they've done Medicare for all, but in smaller regions of the country for places that have been impacted by disasters, pandemics, epidemics, or whatever, to some degree or another, a disaster where they needed health care, and so they were able to do that. Now, if the whole country is in the middle of a pandemic, where the world's in the middle of a pandemic and it's killing millions of people in our country, Joe Biden has the legal authority to implement Medicare for all without the approval of Congress. He could have done it. And you know what? Would that have been challenged in the courts? Maybe. Yeah, probably actually. And you know what you do? Great. Now it's in the public sphere. Now I'm going to argue for it. Now the people who are arguing against it have to argue. Now the people who are stopping the Medicare for all by bringing it to court have to be the ones to argue against it. And you get to be the one to argue for it. They don't want it. Not only do they never fight for it, they never argue for it. Even Joe Biden said he would veto Medicare for all if it somehow made it to his desk. You could win on that easily and at least win the American people and make massive steps in the right direction on it. Because I want people to argue with my political positions. I don't think you believe in political positions if you don't want people to argue with them. When you try to like censor people and stuff, I don't think you believe in your position. I just don't. And when you try to get people to argue with you, it's because you believe in your position, you believe your argument for your position will win out over theirs. And so like I would use every opportunity to make an argument for Medicare for all and to try and implement it. And the second anybody opposes me, that's where I go, oh yay, I get to explain to the American people why you're wrong and why you suck. So yeah, I guess the short answer is they don't want those policies. They're bought by they're bought and owned by their corporate donors, and they do the bidding of their corporate donors, and they have to pretend like they, to appease their base because they're Democrats and the base is wildly progressive. They have to appease their progressive base by making it look like they're trying without actually trying. So they go, oh, us poor old Democrats stopped by the mean old Republicans once again, even though we had like you said, at one point we had a super majority. We could have basically got anything, at least one of something that we wanted passed. We could have done universal health care. We could have gotten basically anything done that we wanted, but we couldn't because the mean old Republicans stopped us, despite the fact that we had all of the power and we had all the power and authority, and we had the ability to get anything we wanted done. So it's just corruption. It's corruption that leads them to not wanting it, but then they have to put those liberals, the brunch liberals, to sleep somehow. And so get them to be like, oh, the Republicans stopped us, so that way the brunch liberals will argue with the actual like progressive left, the populist left, and be like, well, they tried, but the Republicans obstruction, and it's all the Republicans and this and that. So long story short, it's just corruption. It's just they don't want it, and the Republican or the Republican opposition talking point is their scapegoat for why they're not getting anything done when they could so easily get most of the things they want. But their base wants done.